this narcissistic and sociopathic urge to persecute enemies and reward friends. He said that they're going to investigate these assistant United States attorneys and Danielle Sassoon for doing their fucking jobs. We're going to punish our enemies, reward our friends. That's because we are in charge of the government, and it's all about me, all about us, all about our power, and all about making people bow down to us. It's authoritarian.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to George Conway Explains It All to Sarah. I'm Sarah Longwell, publisher of the Bulwark, and because I'm not a lawyer, I've asked my good friend George Conway from the Society for the Rule of Law to explain the legal news to me.
Illegal news.
Yeah, I gotta shorten that because I run out of breath doing it all.
Well, I think you just gotta say, and today's illegal news.
In today's illegal news,
right.
The Eagles won the Super Bowl.
It ain't legal no more.
Hey, I see you're wearing your birds.
Go Birds!
Stuff, and so I'm gonna just acknowledge. Did you go? Did you physically go there?
I physically went there.
Was it so fun?
It was really fun. I had a great time. And then I my friend and I took a pedicab, what do you call them? Pedicabs?
Yeah, pedicab.
And the guy had a megaphone, and I was going down Canal Street and yelling DAGLES and Go Birds, and also singing Go Birds to the tune of the chop that the Kansas City, Go Birds, Go Birds.
I'm such a superficial sports fan that I did watch.
Were you Steelers or Eagles?
I was Eagles. Eagles are my patrimony.
Okay, so you were closer to Philly then.
Yeah, my grandparents were in Philly, so my grandpa always had the Eagles on, and so I see the Eagles and I'm aware that they're my team, but haven't cared about football ever. I didn't grow up going to a football school.
You saved yourself a lot of pain and agony.
Yeah, well, do you know what brought me back, actually, was the Commanders being pretty good this year.
Yeah,
they were that and having kids. I've got kids now, and I'm like, okay, we're going to do DC sports.
Right.
And so
no, it's great. It's a lot of fun. There are just certain seats at what they call it now, Northwest Stadium. They've changed the name from FedEx Field, that you just don't want to be in. It's not a great place. They should blow it up.
I think they are, right?
I think they are. Yeah, they want to do something on the RFK side.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen, which will be cool. I'm excited.
But if you go to the RFK Stadium, you will not be, if you have vaccinations, you can't get in.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, well,
all right, sorry.
The Eagles, I got your joke. It was a good joke.
No, you didn't laugh.
Okay, so Eagles turned in a dominating performance, and do you know who else turned in a dominating performance?
The federal courts?
Danielle Sassoon.
Oh, she is great. She is a model of professional and moral responsibility. And we need to start the Danielle Sassoon fan club.
It's starting right here. I want to talk about it. I want to set the stage a little bit. So we're going to start by talking about Eric Adams and the DOJ. And so just to set the scene for why Danielle Sassoon is the hero we need right now. Okay. So last year, Eric Adams, who is the mayor of New York, was indicted by federal prosecutors on a few different charges, including soliciting and accepting a bribe. Now, this week, Emil Bove, is it Bove or Bove, do you think?
Bove, I think it is.
Bove. The acting deputy AG sent a memo to the South District of New York's U.S. Attorney's Office telling them to drop the charges against Adams. And a footnote in that memo says, as Mr. Bove clearly stated to defense counsel during our meeting on January 31st, the government is not offering to exchange dismissal of a criminal case for Adams' assistance on immigration, which is a little bit thou doth protest too much.
let me stop you there, because there's actually a slightly more technical sequence there.
Okay.
Bove wrote a memo to the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office saying that basically you are instructed to dismiss this case. Sassoon then wrote a letter to the newly confirmed Attorney General, Pam Bondi, basically saying, professionally and ethically, I can't do that. There's no basis for
dismissing the charges,
dismissing the case.
Yeah.
And she described in her letter a sequence of events involving meetings and discussions with Bove. And in one of those meetings, they apparently, but Sassoon had someone taking notes. And her letter talked about how Bove was basically saying, we want to dismiss this case in order that Adams can help us with immigration.
Yeah.
And she described it as a quid pro quo.
Right.
And then in an absolutely ludicrous response that was issued yesterday, a letter back to the U.S. Attorney's Office, accepting Sassoon's resignation. This guy, Bove, wrote a footnote basically denying that there was a quid pro quo. But in doing so, he kind of revealed the fact that he told people to, not to take notes. He didn't want people taking notes. And in fact, it turned out he confiscated the notes or had someone confiscate the notes after they were taken, which is, just evidence of guilt beyond, it's just crazy. And so,
so they'd had this back and forth,
right?
Because then yesterday, I remember we were supposed to tape yesterday, and I was so glad we didn't.
Oh, absolutely.
And it got pushed back because this legal news was like, it's a bombshell, right? So on Thursday, today's Friday. On Thursday, the interim U.S. Attorney, Southern District of New York, this is Danielle Sassoon, who clerked, by the way, for Antonin Scalia
and Harvey Dickinson,
and is affiliated with the Federalist Society,
right? And was picked by the Trump transition team to be the acting United States. She was a Trump appointee.
That's right.
She quit.
So she sends this letter. So she resigned in protest over being asked this, but in doing so, she made a letter to Pam Bondi public. Correct. And it is an absolute banger.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And so I'll just give you a couple highlights so we can talk about them. She wrote, I cannot fulfill my obligations, effectively lead my office in carrying out the department's priorities, or credibly represent the government before the courts if I seek to dismiss the Adams case on this record. And that's right. So there was this footnote where she attended this meeting where this Bove guy said to members of her office, Adams attorneys repeatedly urged what amounted to a quid pro quo, indicating that Adams would be in a position to assist with the department's enforcement priorities of the indictment only if the indictment were dismissed. Mr. Bove admonished a member of my team who took notes during the meeting and directed the collection of those notes at the meeting's conclusion. There's a whole bunch of things in this letter that we could go through. I read the letter, and even as a layperson, I can see how devastating this letter is in the way that it lays out the facts against this. But one of them was her saying, you are saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, George, but she's saying in this letter, this guy Bove is demanding that we drop charges that this guy is guilty of, that according to a grand jury, he was indicted by a jury of his peers.
Right.
I have all the evidence I've seen points to the fact that he is guilty. There's no credible reason to dismiss the charges, but also the argument that dismissing them so that he can help Trump enforce his immigration policies, and which was described as a quid pro quo by this Bove guy, is an insane violation.
Well, Bove denies that it's a quid pro quo.
Oh, Bove denies it, but she says it's an obvious quid pro quo.
He does admit that that's a factor, which makes absolutely no sense. But
she goes through the letter.
She just crushed her. She just absolutely crushed him. It is just an absolutely masterful deconstruction and destruction of Bove's position. And Bove looks like shit. And not only did Sassoon resign, Bove actually suspended the assistant U.S. attorneys, these poor lying U.S. attorneys who are just doing their job, suspended the ones who were working on the case because they too refused to go into a federal judge and make the motion to dismiss. And then other people resigned too, including, I don't remember his name, but it was the acting head of the criminal division of the United States Department of Justice, one of the most important positions in the Department of Justice, beneath the Deputy Attorney General spot. And he worked in shit show 1, Trump administration 1, and he was reappointed. He was appointed as the interim acting head of the criminal division in shit show 2 here. And he quit. And he's a Republican too. And then there were a couple of some lawyers from the public integrity section of the criminal division who quit. I mean, we have not seen anything like this since 1973, when Nixon ordered Attorney General Elliot Richardson and to fire Archibald Cox, and he refused, and his number 2, William Ruckelshaus, refused to do it. And then finally they had to go back to Bork, Judge Bork, not yet Judge Bork, but he was the Solicitor General at the time, and basically he had to do the firing. And basically Ruckelshaus and Richardson told him, you got to stay because somebody's got to run the department. We haven't seen anything since that, the famous Saturday Night Massacre. People are starting to call this the Thursday Night Massacre. And it's really just remarkable upheaval in the Justice Department. And there's an NBC News reporter, Ryan Riley, also an Eagles fan, by the way, and he's gone to the Eagles fan parade today, reported yesterday that he was talking to numerous officials at the DOJ and at FBI, and their attitude toward Bove, in the words of one of these people, was that they want to tell him, go fuck yourself, traitor. Literally, quote. That is remarkable. And I mean, basically, we're seeing what could be a full-scale revolt at the Department of Justice. We'll see how it plays out. But the problem Bove has now is, in order to get a case dismissed under Rule 48 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, you have to make a motion, even if you're the government and you're the one who's tendered the indictment, and you got to explain yourself. And normally it's not a big deal because usually there's some reason you discovered some new evidence or something, and any number of valid reasons you could have to dismiss your own indictment. But the judge can inquire, and the judge is going to want to hear on the record from somebody. And now there's nobody in the Southern District of New York to do this. They're going to have to send somebody down from Main Justice, but the criminal division head quit and the public integrity people quit. So who's going to go? I hope it's Bove. I hope because he's going to get his head handed to him by the judge.
Well, so let me just say a little bit more about Bove, because I want you to react to it. Because yesterday Bove sent a letter to Sassoon saying she pursued a politically motivated prosecution despite an express instruction to dismiss the case. And she lost sight of her oath by suggesting that she retains the discretion to interpret the Constitution in a manner inconsistent with the policies of a democratically elected president and a Senate-confirmed attorney general. Then Bove said he was going to place 2 of the AUSAs who worked on the Adams case on leave and transfer the case to DOJ's public integrity section, right, which is what you're talking about. So then the 2 lawyers who lead the unit, they resigned, right, along with some of these others. Explain. So I read the letter and understood it. I understand what's happening. I understand that you got this guy Bove who from Trump, like this is coming from the White House and from Bondi, right, saying, we want this guy, let him go. Let him go. He's going to enforce our immigration policies, which is, of course, what clearly Adams went and said to the Trump administration to get these things dropped. He's like, look, I'll be your guy in New York. We're going to implement hardcore immigration. Just drop these, get these guys off my back.
Yeah,
and they did.
That's like putting a favorable spin on it. It's probably even worse.
Tell me how it's worse.
Worse it is. But basically, this allegation that it was a politically motivated prosecution is absurd. The suggestion is that the Justice Department under a Democratic president, aka Joe Biden, indicted a Democratic mayor of New York City in a political vendetta is absurd. And the theory is that he did it because Adams had been somewhat critical of the prior administration's immigration enforcement policy. It's just ridiculous. I mean, the evidence is apparently very, very strong against Adams. And what's going on here is a classic instance of Trumpian lying, okay? by both, where they're saying you're acting in a politically motivated fashion, when in fact they are acting in a politically motivated fashion. And what happened here is it may well be that immigration is playing a role, but I think more of a role that's being played here is that Adams went and kissed the ring. And that's the most important thing to Donald Trump. And, and the notion that somehow the Justice Department came up with this idea itself is absurd. Clearly somebody at the White House had to have told them, you need to do this because it's so extraordinary and so sudden, and it follows Adams' visit to Mar-a-Lago. So it's really just, it stinks to high heaven. I mean, it is really, really egregious.
So here's, so there's a couple things I want to pull apart in this. One is this a glimmer of hope? Like, because it looks, she is one of the first people, because I got to tell you, I was so charged up by this letter, which is like 8 pages, but like 8 pages of just pristine, backed up, cited, perfect prose that even a layperson could understand. And the fact that there were resignations, like I could tell reading it how starved I was for somebody to stand up and say, like, right, no, we're not going to do this stuff.
We have totally seen cowardice and crazy.
Because Ray, why couldn't the rest of these guys have done this? Why is it always a 36-year-old woman who has to be the one?
Well, it's true. Like, that's a good point. It's a good point. She's in that pantheon of Olivia Troy and Cassidy Hutchinson and Stephanie Grisham. It's the women who are showing a lot of courage. It's really
or true. Liz Cheney, or like
Liz Cheney. Yeah.
So is what she's doing going to inspire some more people in the legal community where this is sort of they're being self-evidently asked to engage in corrupt behavior? The fact that she stood up to him and that she has the credibility of sort of not of being a Trump appointee, she's not some lib here. Is that going to cause more people to stand up? Like, are we at the beginning of something?
I hope so. I mean, I was texting with some people yesterday, and somebody made the point, courage is infectious. And I like to think that's so, but there has been precious little evidence of that over the past several years. I mean, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger stood out there alone. And I don't consider myself particularly courageous, but one of the things I thought I was doing when I first went off the reservation in 2018 was that I could show people, like, no, you don't have to do this. And I got some support, and I was joined by some people. That's what the Society for the Rule of Law is. That's what came out of it. But a lot of people, most people just hid under the rug. And I hope that changes now, because we're reaching a whole new level of moral and ethical corruption here.
Frustrated with your current skincare routine? For years, products have promised to fix lines, wrinkles, and crepey skin, but rarely deliver lasting results. That's where today's sponsor, OneSkin, changes everything. In honor of National Women Inventors Month, we're highlighting OneSkin's founding team of female scientists who have developed a whole new approach to skincare, starting at the cellular level. Their proprietary OS1 peptide is the first peptide scientifically proven to reverse skin aging by switching off the dysfunctional senescent cells that cause lines, wrinkles, and crepey skin. You can try it. OS1 in all of OneSkin's topical supplements, from their flagship facial moisturizer and award-winning eye cream, that's the one you and I both like, to sunscreens that protect skin from UV damage and cellular aging. Your skin is your body's largest organ and the one most linked to the visible signs of aging. With OneSkin, you're helping your skin look, feel, and act like its younger self every time you use it. See for yourself with 15% off using code Ask George at oneskin.co. George, we love our OneSkin. You and I both use it.
I have some. I put some on just before the art podcast here.
Yeah, you look 10 years younger these days. It's just been taking years off.
It's the light.
No, it's the OneSkin. It's the OS1 peptides.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Getting rid of those senescent cells. Founded by and led by an all-women team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is redefining the aging process with their proprietary OS1 peptide, the first ingredient proven to help skin look, feel, and behave like its younger self. Get 15% off with code AskGeorge at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code AskGeorge, all one word. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Tell them you said, boy, George and Sarah just have the most baby soft skin, and I want skin just like that. Okay? Invest in your health and the longevity of your skin with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you. Yeah, and maybe just for people who don't understand why what is happening is so bad, maybe you could just explain in layman's terms, like, what is the Trump administration doing here? Like, why do they care about, I mean, I know you just said this. He went and kissed the ring, so they want to let him off. And like Blagojevich, another corrupt Democrat, went to jail. He's going to get a pardon and probably like maybe get to do something.
And he already got a commutation. He got a commutation during shit show 1.
Is this an attempt? Because I think about this from a PR standpoint. Is this an attempt to basically say anybody who's corrupt, I'm going to let off as a way, including Democrats, as a way of trying to reinforce the idea that there is that these are all weaponized political attacks on people?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely part of it. But I also think another part of it is this narcissistic and sociopathic urge to persecute enemies and reward friends, and to use every lever of the government, okay, including the Kennedy Center, okay, and the Justice Department as a weapon to reward friends and punish enemies. So what the message that's being sent out here is, Adams is a friend. If you're nice to us and you do our bidding, you get off. If you criticize us, we're going to throw the book at you. We're going to investigate you. He said that they're going to investigate these assistant United States attorneys and Danielle Sassoon for doing their fucking jobs. We're going to punish our enemies, reward our friends. That's because we are in charge of the government, and it's all about me, all about us, all about our power, and all about making people bow down to us. It's authoritarian.
Yeah, what's that old saying? It's like, for our friends' mercy, for our enemies, the law.
Yeah, well, that's sounds like something the hanging Nazi judge would have said.
So Bove's position is like that the U.S. attorneys can't interpret the Constitution independently. Instead, they have to interpret it consistent with the administration's posture. Is that what they're saying?
At the end of the day, the president of the United States is the president of the United States. He is in charge of the executive branch, and he can dismiss a United States attorney for whatever reason. And he does get the last say about what the law is, even if he's being lawless in that sense. But that doesn't mean that individuals who are officers of the United States or employees of the United States government beneath the president, they take an oath too to the Constitution and laws of the United States.
She references
and they have a moral, if not legal, obligation to not follow and not execute orders that they believe are unlawful or contrary to their oaths. And that's what she did here. I mean, it should be that government attorneys and government officials should be resigning under what she's doing here is she obviously knew she was going to lose her job.
Yeah.
And she resigned. That's a great thing. We need more of that. We need people who are willing to say, I will not betray the law. I will not betray my country in service of one man who is betraying his oath almost every hour on the hour.
So here's a couple things that are interesting to me in this letter. One is the letter was released because Danielle Sassoon resigned, but like it had been sent previously to Pam Bondi, and it was a request for a meeting to explain why this was so wrong. Like, I would like to meet with you, and if not, if I can't get that, I will tender my resignation, which is ultimately what ended up
well, she knew what was going to happen.
But one of the things that struck me about the letter is that she keeps talking about, is there like it's not a prosecutor's code of conduct book. There's some book that clearly is the letter of the law of how you're supposed to conduct yourself.
There is just a manual of the Department of Justice.
Manual. That's right.
That has been evolved. It has evolved over the years from administration to administration, Republican and Democrat, to develop standards for fairly investigating and prosecuting criminal misconduct under the federal laws. And, this is completely contrary to those principles. And that was her point. And she is adhering to the norm that the justice process, the prosecution, the criminal justice process in the federal, in federal courts is not to be tainted by politics, not to be tainted by cronyism, not to be tainted by corruption. And that you have to basically treat people as equally as you can. That you whether they're Republican, Democrat, black, white, whatever. And, but it's sort of ironic here because one of the things that she notes in her letter is that her office was about to seek approval from a grand jury of a superseding indictment, an amended indictment that was going to charge Mayor Adams with destroying evidence, destroying documents, or urging others to destroy evidence. Obstruction of justice, which ironically was the dead bang case that the Justice Department had against Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, and the Mueller investigation. I mean, this is where
the classified documents case where he basically.
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, they've had Trump on obstruction.
He hid the documents from the FBI. He lied to the FBI, which apparently was going to be something that Adams was about to be charged with in the superseding indictment, and he urged others to destroy evidence. He tried to get someone to erase the security tapes at Mar-a-Lago so that the Justice Department wouldn't have evidence that the documents were moved and hidden from the FBI.
That was a bit of a bombshell that was just contained in the letters. Like, no, this guy was also destroying evidence. Yeah. I mean, she is, one of the things I love about this letter is that it is not emotional at all. It is just like the facts. But
also there were moving aspects to the letter, I want to say.
Yeah.
Where she talks about, adherence to principle, adherence to fairness, and adherence to the pursuit of impartial justice. And one of my favorite sentences in the letter was that she was taught all this in part by Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson, a renowned Reagan appointee on the Fourth Circuit for whom she clerked, and Antonin Scalia, Justice Scalia, for whom she also clerked.
Yes.
And this is the thing. I found that very moving because so many of my Federalist Society friends have, just kowtowed to this fellow, Trump.
One of the other, so I agree with you that I guess I just mean it's like a very clear letter. It's not, it's not.
No. It isn't. It doesn't use, it's not hyperbolic in any way. It just lays, the best legal writing is exactly like that. It's clear and it leads, it carries you inexorably to the conclusion. So that it's like butter. You're just sliding along and it's like, and you read it and you say, how could this not be correct.
That is right.
And
you read it and you go, yes.
He also wove in just, this inspiring stuff about duty and honor, which that's really what makes me want to do the fan club.
Yeah. Let me just, before you get too juiced up, there's another thing she does in here that I thought was interesting, which is, she says, our justice system is supposed to be impartial, but that Bove's order would grant Adams leniency solely because he holds a powerful position and consists in Trump's immigration crackdown. And she says that she suggests basically that Bove himself has committed misconduct by using the case to coerce Adams to help Trump. What do you think about that?
That's not a crazy thing. And I would not be surprised. In fact, I have reason to believe that a disciplinary complaint will at some point be filed against Bove in New York. He's barred in New York under the second department, second appellate division department of New York, and that's where he's licensed to practice law. And allegations of misconduct may be presented there.
Don't you wish that people like Chris Wray or some of these other ones had done this, where they instead of just resigning, that they had they had taken a stand on something in particular?
It's called in legal ethics a noisy withdrawal.
Yeah.
It can happen in non-governmental legal positions where you think something, you think something is wrong and you need to speak out about it. Within the confines of attorney-client privilege, and you basically say, I'm resigning because I can no longer represent this client honorably. And that is something we do not see enough of.
And you know what? I've actually got some breaking news on this in particular, which the lead prosecutor on the Adams investigation, which is a guy named Hagen Scotton, he just resigned from the Southern District of New York, and in part said in his email, resigning, to Mr. Bove, he said, I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion to dismiss Adams' charges, but it was never going to be me. Yeah. They're doing it. They're doing the thing right now. This is amazing.
Fuck yeah. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you can. This calls for it. And I guess I sort of want to impress on our audience, because this is the kind of thing that because I'm not a lawyer, sometimes can get by me, or I see it and I'm like, this is good, but I don't appreciating the gravity of what's happening now, not just because we've been so starved for somebody else to do it and other people could have been doing it. But also they are doing it in mass right now, and they're doing it in this noisy way, and they're explaining to people why this is corrupt. But I guess my question is, this is deeply important and matters for reasons of truth, justice, and the American way. Is it going to matter? He's probably right. They probably can find somebody who's enough of a fool or a coward.
Yeah, it might have to be Bove himself, which would be great.
Is that the next step? Is that what happens here?
Well, they're going to basically, as you mentioned, Bove in his letter said he was taking the case away from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York and giving it to Main Justice Headquarters here in D.C., and in particular to the Public Integrity Section. But in the Public Integrity Section, which reports to the Criminal Division, multiple people have resigned because they do not want anything to do with this. And the Deputy Attorney General in charge of all criminal prosecutions from Guam to Rhode Island to Maine also quit. So he's going to have a difficult time finding somebody to do this, particularly after Sassoon's letter and this amazing statement by the line assistant that you just read.
Yeah.
So he may have to go down there himself. And this is a problem I think that I've flagged in prior episodes. I said that one of the things, I think I've said this here, that one of the problems that the Trump administration has with the legal stuff is, first of all, they're going to get sued so many times. They're going to have trouble keeping track of the cases. And since they're driving people away from the Justice Department, it's going to be hard for them to defend these cases. And if you have a situation where lawyers in the Justice Department are morally emboldened the way they do appear now to be, and the FBI also apparently is just up in arms, and they're kind of Trumpy to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? How is this department going to function? Both can't do this.
How can they prosecute all their enemies, George, if the entire Justice Department is gone?
Well, I think we've touched upon that. And what we're seeing remarkably is we're seeing it live, happening in real time. I mean, as I think I said earlier, we're seeing what could become a full-scale revolt at the Justice Department. And I posted on Blue Sky the other day that they should just go on strike at some point. I think you could see something like that, where lawyers would basically say, we're taking the day off to make this point. And you know something? Federal judges will love that. They will be perfectly happy to put off hearings for that. They're not going to punish anybody for that.
Yeah. Well, I guess I wonder if you think the majority of the establishment legal community could hold the line here.
Well, I have to say it's been a bit of a roller coaster, guys.
Because didn't I see, just to say as a counterexample, like the firm Sullivan and Cromwell, which I'm told is very fancy and well respected.
Yeah, no, he's my
They're going to represent Trump.
Yeah, my friend Bob Gifford. I went to law school with him, and he was the best man at my wedding.
Oh, geez.
And I told him, "You're making a huge mistake. You're making an absolutely huge mistake, both for you and your firm." And his attitude is, "I'm just the appellate lawyer." I said, "That doesn't work with this guy." And I wonder what Sullivan and Cromwell is going to do if and when Trump stops obeying court orders. I mean, I would not be able to personally. I would be ashamed to be a member of a law firm that represents Donald Trump to begin with. But if he starts disobeying court orders the way I think he will end up doing, that's basically an attack on the legal system from which Sullivan, Cromwell, and all these law firms benefit. It's their profession. We rely, just as not just lawyers, but citizens on this system of justice. And we have to honor court rulings, even ones that we disagree with, because that's what creates the conditions for us to be a free people. And for a law firm with such a renowned record of public service, such as Sullivan and Cromwell, the Dulleses were partners of that firm.
Like the airport?
Yeah, John Foster Dulles. He was from Sullivan and Cromwell, I believe.
Oh.
No, a patron. Not everybody liked everything he did, but he was. This is a firm with an amazing record of public service and top-notch lawyering. And I'm very, very fond of my friend Bob, and very, very fond of many, and friendly with many, many of the lawyers there. They should be, I think a number of them may be appalled at this representation, and I think it's not going to get any better for them. And I think it's a terrible thing, terrible message to send to younger lawyers that the firm would represent such a criminal. I mean, it's okay to represent a criminal, okay? A criminal, to take your death penalty case, all right? It's fine. I've represented a criminal on appeal myself, a pro bono, even though...
Well, everybody deserves a defense.
Everybody deserves a defense. But this man is someone who can only cause you trouble and who's trying to destroy this very system that, our profession and our economy and our freedom relies upon. Okay? That's not true of the guy who I represented in the Second Circuit who robbed a pharmacy on 34th Street. All right? And you just cannot equate those two.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So Elon Musk, this is another, so so much is happening in the courts now. It's a good thing we kept this show going to do the illegal news, because the courts matter a great deal right now in being a backstop to what Trump is doing. And on Thursday, so also yesterday, because it's a big legal news day, 14 state attorneys general sued Musk and Trump in the newest litigation case against the administration. What is the legal argument in that case?
Yeah, no, there were actually two cases filed in the last couple of days on this, essentially the same issue. And I love this issue. I would pay money to somebody to let me argue these cases, because I think they're dead bang winners, and I love the subject matter. And it involves the application and interpretation.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching the show. If you want to catch the rest of this episode, then go become a Bulwark Plus subscriber. The link to become a subscriber is right below here in the episode description. Click on that, become a Bulwark Plus subscriber, catch the rest of the show, and support all the great work we do here at the Bulwark. Thanks, guys.
Well, George Conway, he's a man with a plan. Got to sit down with Sarah Longwell, take a stand, explain all the legal problems they're piling high. With Donald Trump, oh my, oh my, oh my. He said, Sarah, let me break it down for you. There's obstruction of justice, corruption, to the legal tangles and troubles, they're growing fast. It's a storm that's gonna last and last. Oh, Conway, tell Longwell all about it. Those legal problems can't live without it. From the emoluments to the Russian ties. Oh, Sarah, listen close.